Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of Allah, the All Gracious, the All Merciful. Hello to you all, dear viewers and dear students, and those who are watching to our program. If you were following our program, we were discussing about the topic of communications. And in our previous discussions, we talked about various subjects, about definition of communication, about the types, elements, models, and effects. And also we described the process of communication that, as a matter of fact, what can be the process of communication. We talked about all these issues. In continuation of the models of communication, there are a couple of major theories in the issue of communications, especially in mass media communications, or mass communication in general meaning, which includes all kinds of communication in different parts that are very important to know. Before talking about these issue, talking about the theories of mass communication, which is one of the main, as a matter of fact, types of communication, I have to talk about the field of study which is referring to the mass communication. Today mass communication is one of the important topics that in the issue of the communication, all the researchers, all the students have to go deeply to research on this topic. We classified communication to different types. Sometimes it is interpersonal communication, and sometimes it is intrapersonal, sometimes it is group communication, and sometimes mass communication. Mass communication is of importance because of today's situation, that the world is filled with different issues, different topics, different programs, different media. No difference if you refer to TV channels, if you refer to satellites, if you refer to cyberspace. The minds of the people are under the effect of the mass media. Mass media, as it is clear from its surface and its the word, refers to anything which targets a mass. Mass is different from group. A group is combined of, for example, 10, 20, 100, or less or more. People who know each other very well. They are interconnected. They have interactions. They affect each other. They influence each other. So a group is, we can say, a small mass. But in the general meaning of the mass communication, mass refers to a bulk of audience that is combined of thousands of groups, thousands of organizations, thousands of, corporations, universities, and etc. In one word, to all the people of one country or overseas, and etc. So mass communication today deals with different fields. If I want to just name the fields, the main one refers to the advertising or advertisement. Mass communication is dealing deeply with advertising or mass advertising, which I will talk about the techniques that are used in propagation and techniques of advertisement, that we can be benefited from those techniques in our religious discussions, and to know how we can be benefited from those techniques to use them in our missionary jobs, in our propagation, in our communication, or in one word, introducing our religion, the Ahlul Bayt school of thought, and etc. So in mass media, the first and the foremost point is the issue of advertisement, or affecting the mind of the people. And the second one is the broadcasting, that everyone who is dealing with the mass communication must know. Broadcasting is the act of transmitting audio and or the visual content through a communication medium, such as radio, television, or film, movies, and etc., which the mass communication deal with that. Also, journalism is one of the subcategories of mass media, that is the collection, verification, presentation, and editing of news and presentation through the media. In this sense, refers to the production of the news, and it deals with e-readers, with television stations, with radio stations, and etc. And also it deals with public relations in mass communication, that public relations is the process of providing information to the public in order to present a specific view of a product or organization or religious facts, or etc. So public relations differs from, as a matter of fact, advertising, in that it is less, we can say, obtrusive, and aimed at providing a more comprehensive opinion in a large audience in order to shape public opinion. Advertisement is a part of public opinion. Public opinion is very, very important. Public space or public opinion. In the issue of communication, public opinion or public space is very, very important. The main target and objective of communication is to change the mentality of the others. If you want to create an atmosphere, if you want to create, for example, a situation, a special position, or etc., okay, you have to create a kind of public relations or public atmosphere, and that is very important. If you want to change the mentalities of the public, if you want to create the public opinion, a public space, you have to change the mentalities. And that is why we want to, as a matter of fact, know the techniques and the ways and the methodologies of changing the public opinions. Inshallah, I will talk about these points in our upcoming sessions, about the techniques, about the other facts, inshallah. Now, I want to talk about those major theories that I talked about, that in the field of communications we have to be mastered in these issues. There is a close relation between the models and the theories. The theories made the models. In previous discussions, we talked about different models of communication, starting from Lasswell, Wilberstrom, Hugenweitz, and also, for example, Marshall McLuhan, and etc. And here, I want to bring the name of some of the major theories in the field of communications. One of the main theories in the communications or mass media communication is the issue of the cultivation theory. Cultivation theory, which is developed by George Gerbner and also Marshall McLuhan, discusses the long-term effects of watching television, or, for example, searching on media and communicational programs, and hypothesizes that the more television an individual consumes, the more likely that person is to be believe in real world that is similar to that they see in television. So cultivation theory is closely related to the idea of mean world syndrome. In cultivation theory, which is very, very important, and we have to be benefited from this theory too, is that if you want to change the mentality or a culture or a tradition or even the religion of a group of people, okay, you have to we can say make a policy of a long-term actions and long-term process. Cultivation theory says that as in cultivation it takes 1 year or some 2 seasons to cultivate a seed on the earth, and that seed to grow and to, as a matter of fact, to be transformed to a tree, I don't know, to weeds, to cultivational results or anything, or fruit or anything, okay, or product. It takes time. It is not the case that when you cultivate the seed on the earth and you water it, for example, after 2 weeks it will grow up and it will be a huge tree. No. If you, for example, if you want to have a very strong tree with a very thick trunk, okay, you have to sometimes wait for maybe 20 years, 30 years. Cultivation theory similarly says that if you want to cultivate a culture, a religion, on the mind of a group of people, you have to plan for a long-term policy makings, and then you can change the mentality of the people. So it is very important, and in the theories of the major theories of the communication, it says that through communication you can change the mentality of the people. It is not the case you sit back on your seat, on your country, and just look surroundings and just look at the media and don't do anything, and you say that Allah will keep us safe and sound, so there is no need we do anything. It is not true. If you want to cultivate on the mind of the people, if you want to change the minds of the people to the objective you are following, okay, you have to spend time, okay, you have to have some expertise and also some skills. For example, if you want to cultivate a, I don't know, apple tree, apple seed on the earth, or for example, let's bring some names, for example, a banana, okay, you cannot cultivate banana on cold weather countries. It must be on hot weathers. If you want to have date palms, okay, you have to cultivate it in warm weathers, like in Saudi Arabia, in some hot weathers, in the places that doesn't need that much watering, okay. Vice versa, you cannot cultivate, for example, an apple tree, or for example, orange tree, or I don't know, anything that grows up normally in cold weather. You cannot cultivate them in hot weather countries, okay. Similarly, if you want to change the mentality of a group of people, you have to look at the audience, to the target audience, that you have to first of all assess and evaluate the situation of your audience and then cultivate, okay. Cultivation itself needs some expertise. You know the weather, the earth, the dirt, which kind of I don't know, chemical things you have to use to fertilize that land, okay, or how much amount of water you need to water that seed or that tree. Okay, sometimes giving more than the water that seed or tree needs, it will corrupt the product. Okay, you have to give a certain amount of water, or even as a matter of fact, the sunshine or sunlight. It differs. You cannot, for example, you cannot cultivate, or you cannot grow up, I don't know, rose flowers which grow up normally in humid weather, on hot weathers, like for example in the countries that there is no water, the weather is so dry, and no rose flower, no beautiful flowers cannot grow in those places. So in cultivation theory, it says that if you want to change the mentality of the audience, first of all, you have to spend time. It is not a matter of 1 year or 2 years or 3 years or even 10 years. For example, if you want to go for propagation, if you want to go introduce Islam to the world, for example, in non-Muslim countries, okay, in non-Muslim countries, okay, you cannot change the mentality, okay, just by going, for example, 1 week, 2 weeks, or 1 month for Tabigh or propagation and introducing Islam, okay, and say that suffices. No. If you want really to establish a flow, I mean, if you want to run a movement or evolution in the process of religious doctrines and religious studies, you have to migrate to that country. You have to be there for decades, 10 years, 20 years. You have to live there. Even sometimes you have to die there, to be buried there, if you want to change that mentality. I remember some of my friends told a story that he went to one African country and saw that in that country there is a very big Catholic university. He said, I made an appointment to see the dean or the president of that university. And when he succeeded to meet him, he saw that the president of this university, this Catholic university, is a European professor. He asked the professor that, how come you came here to this African country with this weather? He said, I am Austrian. You know, Austria is a very beautiful country in Europe, and because of the Alpine mountains and also very good weather, okay, it is very famous for the beauty. So this professor said that I left my home, even my wife and my family, after 40 years are still in Austria. They didn't come with me. Just once a year, I go in summers to visit them and come back, and during the year I'm alone here. Okay? He said that 40 years ago I came here and there was nothing about Catholicism. Okay? They didn't know about Christianity that much. They have just heard some news or etc. So I migrated, that professor tells, I migrated to this country, to this part of the world. So I made plans for long-term plans, and after that, after 40 years, now I see the fruits. I have made a university, which is the greatest university in this country about Catholicism. Although it was very hard, 40 years I spent my lifetime. Okay, I didn't see my family to be really satisfied, but I have done my job. This is a cultural and cultivation. Okay, even the culture comes from cult, which means as a matter of fact, using seeds and putting the seeds on the heart of the earth. Okay, culture comes from this issue that culture needs a time to be cultivated. Okay, to be grow green. Okay, so taking lesson from that story, that I say, if a person, anyone wants to be influential in his lifetime, he has to spend 10 years, 20 years, even whole life. Even sometimes his lifetime is not enough. He has to, as a matter of fact, start a process, and the next generations follow his way. So this was the cultivation theory that I was talking about. And inshallah, in upcoming session, I will add some other points to the cultivation theory. That this cultivation theory was invented by George Gerbner, and also Marshall McLuhan, one of the great professors of, as a matter of fact, communication studies, have talked about this issue. Inshallah, in our upcoming sessions, we will talk about other major theories in communication. Until next program, wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh.